What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews, exclusively here as always on the Casa D18 Studios Channel. I, of course, am your host, the Renegade JJ Williams, and it's Saturday, so it's new release Saturday here on the channel, and we're going to be discussing the Disney Plus original film Peter Pan and Wendy, starring Alexander Maloney, Ever Anderson, Jude Law, Jim Gaffigan, Alan Tudyk, Molly Parker, Joshua Pickering, and Jacoby Jupe. What's going on, everybody? Thank you for joining me here once again for another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews. As I said in the introduction, it's new release Saturday, so today we're going to discuss the Disney Plus original film Peter Pan and Wendy. And our movie takes place in Edwardian London, England, as Wendy Darling spends her last night at home with her parents, George and Mary, as well as her two younger brothers, John and Michael, before she is to leave to go to boarding school the very next day. Now, Wendy is unhappy with her impending departure, and she tells her mother that she doesn't want to grow up. Later that night, Peter Pan appears in the Darlings' nursery, having heard Wendy's wish. Peter tells Wendy that he has come to take her to Neverland, where she will never have to grow up. And with the help of his friend, a fairy named Tinkerbell, Wendy, John, and Michael all fly off to Neverland. Upon their arrival, they are attacked by a ship of pirates led by Captain Hook, who wants revenge on Peter Pan for cutting off his right hand and throwing it to a crocodile. Hook and his first mate, Mr. Smee, shoot at them with a cannon, causing them to fall from the sky, and Wendy becomes separated from Peter and her brothers. As a result, Wendy meets Tiger Lily and the Lost Boys and witnesses the pirates capturing John and Michael. Hook and his crew take the Darling brothers to Skull Rock, and they chain them to a rock to drown by the rising tide. Peter fights with the captain, while Wendy, Tiger Lily, and the Lost Boys save John and Michael. Hook and the pirates are eventually chased away by Tick-Tock, the crocodile. Now, Peter is proud of his victory, but Wendy scolds him for being reckless, and the Lost Boys tell her that Peter has a complicated history with Captain Hook. Retreating to Peter's hideout, Wendy then sings a lullaby to the Lost Boys, which accidentally reveals their location to the pirates. Wendy then learns from Peter that Captain Hook was once his best friend, James, until he left Neverland and grew up to become a pirate. Hook's crew captures the Lost Boys and the Darling children, while the captain attacks Peter, which results in him seemingly falling to his death. Hook then reveals to Wendy that the reason he left Neverland was because he missed his mom, and he wanted to find her. Eventually, he got lost at sea and was rescued by Smee and the rest of the pirates, who then raised him. When he returned to Neverland, Peter couldn't accept how much Hook had changed, and the two became enemies. Tiger Lily then finds Peter, and she nurses him back to health, while Hook forces Wendy to walk the plank. But she flies away at the last minute with Tinkerbell's pixie dust and the happy thought of actually wanting to grow up. Tinkerbell then spreads pixie dust across the ship in order to lift it into the air, allowing the Lost Boys to break free and battle the pirates. Peter arrives in order to confront Hook, and after a long duel, Peter finally apologizes to him for being a bad friend. Wendy turns the ship on its back, causing the pirates to fall off. Peter attempts to save Hook, encouraging him to fly, but without happy thoughts, he falls into the sea. Afterwards, the Lost Boys decide that they all want a real home. So they fly back to London on the ship with Wendy, John, and Michael. Arriving at home, Wendy introduces the Lost Boys to her parents and then talks to Peter on the roof of their house. Peter then reveals that the Darlings' home was his old home until he ran away one day and never came back. Wendy suggests that he could stay, telling him that growing up could be his greatest adventure ever. But Peter feels he just isn't ready. He bids farewell to Wendy and the Lost Boys and returns to Neverland with Tinkerbell. Back in Neverland, Hook and Smee are both revealed to have survived the fall. Hook looks up at the sky and he sees Peter returning on the ship, causing him to smile happily as our movie comes to its end. Despite this being a Disney Plus original movie and not something released theatrically like Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, Mulan, etc., I put this right up on the level of Aladdin and Beauty and the Beast as far as the live action remakes go. This Peter Pan and Wendy film was phenomenal. I like the fact that they gave you just enough of the classic Disney story without completely retelling it. And I like the fact that they changed it just enough to make it relevant once again and a little bit more modern. The tagline I had seen for this movie all across social medias and posters was "There's two sides to every story." Now, initially, this led me to believe that the film was going to be told more from Hook's standpoint than Peter's, where every tale that there's been has been a Peter Pan story and not necessarily a Captain Hook story. That was inaccurate, but that was my own assumption as well. This very much was Peter's story, but we got a little bit more backstory in Captain Hook as far as the Disney version of Peter Pan and Captain Hook go. We learned that Peter and Hook, James, were best friends. And when James left Neverland because he missed his mom and he grew up, Peter didn't like what he saw when he came back. James had changed too much that in Peter's eyes, James was now a villain. He was a pirate. He was a bad guy. So having been turned on by his best friend, he then kind of resented Peter. And then we get the whole losing of the hand, giving it to TikTok, etc., etc. But to know that these two were once best friends, I think really adds another level, another dynamic to their story, as well as discovering that the Darling home was Peter's home before he left for Neverland. It explains why he constantly comes to that place to listen to stories. It also seems a little bit eerie that that particular house knows stories of Peter Pan, while, in the past, that hasn't been a thing. But the fact that he lived there, it's almost like telepathy, almost, where the people that now reside in his home know his stories and his adventures. Whether he was a bedtime story or not, the fact that at least in this universe, he was a real boy and he lived in that home. I did miss the little twist in this one Where if you go back and if you watch the 1953, I think it is, animated Peter Pan that Disney did, the same man who provided the voice for Captain Hook was the voice for the Darling's father. I think it would have been better to have had that revisited here and either had Jude Law, who played Captain Hook, be the Darling father, or have Alan Tudyk, who was the Darling father, be Captain Hook. I think either way they had gone there, it would have been a great twist because it then explains so much more. But I digress. You know, it almost kind of seems impossible with Hook being a best friend of Peter for Hook to be the parents of the Darling kids. So I can take it, or either way it would have been an awesome twist to the story. Because then with Peter having lived there, it makes it seem like because this person is Captain Hook, is the Darling's father, this person was also somehow connected to Peter, whether, brother, grandfather, etc. If the father of the Darling children then had Captain Hook essentially as his father or his grandfather, depending on how far back the lineage they want to make Peter go, the way that it all still ties into the Darling family would have been a nice little way to wrap things up, I think. I also liked the fact that they gave Tiger Lily more to do without playing into the Indian stereotypes that exist in the animated cartoon. There's the whole what makes the red man red in the Disney 1953 Peter Pan cartoon. And looking at it in retrospect, not a good look. But I like the fact that they gave Tiger Lily more screen time, more to do. She was a more fleshed out character, I think, again, without having to resort to stereotypes. The biggest thing that I think was missing from this movie was Mermaid Lagoon. I've seen a lot of people online criticize and voice their displeasure with the fact that there was no Mermaid Lagoon. I can look at this in two different ways. First of all, there's the theory out there, if you believe in these rumors, there's the theory that one of the mermaids from Mermaid Lagoon was Ariel's mother. And with the Little Mermaid movie on the heels here in the next month or so, just wanted to keep them separated. Okay. Then there's also the look of the fact that mermaids at this point in society, I think, would just be even more over sexualized than they were in the 50s. So throwing these half naked women, young women at that, because I think most of the mermaids in Mermaid Lagoon and Peter Pan are in their teens at best. We'll say between like 12 and 17. So they're not even 18 plus yet. I think it's just a whole can of worms Disney wanted to avoid without, being a bunch of parents, without having to deal with a bunch of parents coming after them because of over sexualization of children in today's society. Does that make it right? Does it make it wrong? That's up for you to decide. But I think that might be where the Disney company was coming from by omitting the Mermaid Lagoon segment. However, like I said, when it comes down to everything in the story, I think the film was well told. I think the story was just enough of the cartoon to keep to its roots while still adding just enough new for it not to be a 100% rehash. I enjoyed it. My family enjoyed it. When it comes to my rating of Peter Pan and Wendy, I'm gonna give it 4 out of 5 stars. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think you will too. If you haven't seen it, it is on Disney Plus. If you're already a Disney Plus subscriber, check it out. It's worth the watch. What did you guys think of Peter Pan and Wendy? Let me know. If you're watching the premiere, leave your thoughts and comments over here. And if you're watching on demand later in the day, leave your thoughts and comments down here. Let's have that conversation, that discussion, that debate, that interaction that I'm always asking you guys for in the comments below. And make sure you guys stay tuned at the top of the hour, right here on the Casa D18 Studios channel, the Jeff Meacham Network, and across the Jeff Meacham Network multiverse of media, as we bring to you our live watch-along coverage of WWE Backlash live from San Juan, Puerto Rico. Myself, the Simple Man Noah Foster, will be on the call providing play-by-play commentary, live reactions, and predictions for today's WWE PLE, and then immediately following WWE Backlash. Once again, here on the Casa D18 Studios channel, the Jeff Meacham Network, and across the Jeff Meacham Network multiverse of media, it'll be time to open the doors for the Saturday night shenanigans that are Open Mic Night. Myself and the Simple Man Noah Foster will remain in the room. We will be joined by the West Coast Professor Jeff Meacham, the He-Man James Hebert, and whoever else from our rotating band of misfits choose to walk through the door, step up to the microphone, and engage in conversation regarding the week in sports and entertainment. And then tomorrow, right back here on the Casa D18 Studios channel, it'll be time once again to step into the war zone. That's right, it'll be time for another edition of the Weekly Acquisition Report, the show where I, the Renegade, show you, the viewers, the latest additions to my ever-growing movie library. You don't want to miss out on any of that content right here on the Casa D18 Studios channel, on the Jeff Meacham Network, across the Jeff Meacham Network multiverse of media, Backlash coverage, Open Mic Night, the War Zone, and we still got a whole lot more of John Wayne Westerns to review on Renegades Reviews. So make sure you smash that like button, make sure you're subscribed, make sure that notification bell is turned on so you don't miss out anytime a video drops right here on the Casa D18 Studios channel, or anytime we go live, as is the case with pay-per-view PLE coverage, Open Mic Night, Stat Boy Sports Bar, and so much more. Share these videos with your family, friends, loved ones, coworkers, movie fanatics, cinephiles in your life, fans of Disney movies, fans of Peter Pan, fans of Jude Law, fans of Alan Tudyk, fans of the live-action Disney remakes. Anybody you can think of that would enjoy this content in this video, share it with them. It's the only way we're going to keep my visibility up in the algorithms on YouTube, now that we are, in fact, a monetized platform. Thank you once again to everybody out there that joined me, tuned in today. It means so much more to me than you guys will ever know. And I will see you guys next time.
And now, preview time. So let's take a look at what's coming your way.